Hi, Sharon.
Hello, 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 Dumela
Yes,
Hi.
welcome to our last day, and thank you everyone who has joined us this most amazing and remarkable week during the GESSA Summit. It's been so fulfilling. It's been something else. I mean, I cannot imagine how I felt on day one. And then now we're at the last, the last leg. We're finishing this off. We're closing down on everything. We want to give a review of our experience as the organizers of this event and everything we've encountered, the kind of interaction we've had with people. It's been for me so amazing. Hasn't it been amazing for you to interact with people from Botswana like on a daily basis, like hour by hour, just asking you questions and just, talking about your country, talking about where you're from and how amazing and impactful they feel that this is. It's something that they need and they just want to get involved somehow. How
Wow,
do you feel?
it has been incredible. I know that we've had some tech issues, and apparently we're
Yes,
having some tech issues even now.
we
You know,
are. We
but
are.
with everything that has been happening, it has got me thinking. I have even when I'm going to bed, there were
Mhm.
things that were coming through my mind and going, wow, like light bulb
Yeah.
moments.
You
Um,
haven't been sleeping. You've been sending me messages
I
during your night. And I'm
it's
like,
just been
Sharon, isn't it 3 o'clock in the morning?
it is because what it is the potential of what let me go back. Sometimes
Yeah.
when you have conversations that not everybody often have in their lounge rooms and in their workplaces, but these are conversations that impact people's lives.
Yeah.
There is a sense that there's a sense of energy that comes in with that conversation, and it is one of the things that has been happening with me, feeling the energy of passionate, inspiring people who have gathered around the world in this platform to inspire, to create opportunities, to connect with African young people. I mean, when you look at the
Yeah.
list of people who we've managed to get on board, Lepang,
Yes.
it has
It's
been
something else.
it's something else. It's something else. So
Yeah.
I feel. I mean, I've been that excited, as you say. I couldn't sleep because, um, but also I think it's the realization of the work that we still need to do.
Yeah.
That
There's a
when
lot of work.
there's a lot of work that
A
we still
lot.
need to do because
Yeah.
whether it's not just about the summit was a
Yes.
start of a conversation.
That's
What
it.
actually happens next, the
Mm.
actual real impact for on the lives of young people across Africa, as well as the
Yes.
actual impact um, and outcomes for both the countries
Yes.
globally, is just something that I cannot even begin to imagine.
Yeah.
So I
Well,
don't know. Are
now
you
we're
ready?
gonna I feel so at this point in time, I feel like had I not taken the risk, because there's always that thing at the back of your head that says maybe just focus on your kids and focus on your family and focus on the people around you and everybody else will figure it out. Yet you wake up in the morning and you think, there's people who I know, there's people who I don't know, there's people in Ghana, there's people in Nigeria. I mean, we've been getting emails from all over. Now I think had I not started this, there's someone somewhere on this continent who will not benefit from what this program can actually do. And how do I feel about that? So I had to ask myself, like, you could zone in on your own life and your kids can become very successful, your friends, children, and all of that, and life just goes on. But will I be able to live with myself knowing all that I know? knowing that I can make a difference, knowing that I can address so many issues, whether it's with policy, with corporate policy, whether it's government policy, that I can be a voice to. Because I mean, I see myself sometimes, and my friends always say this, that Lepang never, they think that sometimes don't I don't see the value of my own voice, you know, as Lepang Ferguson, someone who has contributed to community or contributed to my society somehow. And they said, you know, you can't be silent. You can't continue just being silent about the things that you're trying to change on your own. You're going to have to make noise and pull some people along at some point. And this is where we are. We are saying we've got a program here, and we realize the need for it. And we realize that it is such a strategic time and opportunity to actually launch it, because it's post-COVID. People are connected. People are connected to each other. We're all kind of interconnected, whether in private life or in corporate life, or even with our systems, like our governance systems. But if we don't stand up, Sharon, as leaders, as Black women leaders on our continent, regardless, I mean, we are well-traveled. We have access all over the world. But how can we keep silent about something that we have discovered, that we know can create immediate results for people around us, and not do anything about it? So I wake up fulfilled this morning, realizing that I've gone to the end of this program, even with all the challenges that we've had. We've had so many amazing highlights during even this summit, because there's a lot of organizations that did not see us before, even though we were writing them letters and emails. But this week, they've gotten back to us. They said, oh, so this is what you were talking about. We get it. We see the value. We see the impact that this created just by just local conversations that people were having, even at work. You know, that is big. That is huge, because it just takes one person to mention that there's GESSA, and for the next person to say, let me see how I can become a part of this. That's the power of this interconnected world that we live in.
Absolutely. It is the possibilities that excites me, the opportunities and possibilities that excites me. And you know, sometimes I've been doing community work. Advocacy is part of who I am. I think, you know, as many people would know, my mother started a non-government organization in our home village in Good Hope in the Barolong area of Botswana, and she called it Simpeti. Simpeti means do not leave me behind.
Don't pass me by. Yeah. Don't pass me by. Don't leave me behind.
Do not leave me behind.
Yes.
And that was it has been part of our lives, you know, sitting in many hours of conversations with Mom about the importance of investing in young people.
Yes.
Passionate. And I remember when she passed on at her funeral, and the community standing up and people saying to us and saying, do not forget the young people. Do not forget the work. And please continue to hold the legacy of Orapeleng with simplicity. Look and see the young people, because you have been privileged to be in positions that you can actually make a difference. You know, I am privileged to be an African in diaspora, a Botswana in diaspora. I'm privileged to be able to be linked and connected in community with stakeholders across our country, here in Australia, across our organizations, private and public. And it's just really been a matter of saying, hey, I actually remember having this conversation with someone a few years ago, and I'm picking up the phone call or email and say, can you come on board on this project? Because we've talked about this before. So what GESSA has done for me, it has been like things where the puzzles have been just literally coming together.
Yes, that's it.
And recognizing that this conversation is a global conversation.
It is.
And also it felt like it was taking the weight off my shoulders, that, you know, sometimes when you do advocacy and you're fighting for the cause, it can be a lonely journey.
It is.
It can feel like a lonely journey because you are constantly tapping on people's doors and saying, hey, you need to see an African young person. You need to see an African and recognize our value. Hey, you need to, have you thought about this? Can we do this? And people, you know, sometimes are receptive, but also people sometimes are sit back and saying, it is Africa begging again. No, we're not begging. You know, we're not begging. We're saying, hey, let us be equal partners in these conversations for our mutual benefit.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
And this summit and the people who have spoken through the summit, for me, what they have been able to connect those dots to say, hey, actually, in Canada, this is what we could do here. In Germany, this is what we could do with you, for you, together. In Australia, this is what we can do together. So all of that has created now and starting to build the scaffolding, the framework that we need. Because we started the conversation. So what needs to then happen next? It is how do we actualize that? How do we put all these ideas and things, you know, into action? Because it's the young people who contact me every single day and all the time and saying, Sharon, I am skilled in this. How can I go to Australia and fill in on the workforce shortages that you continue to talk about? How can I contribute in the global world with my skills? This is what I have. This is what I can offer. Or others who say, you know, I have a vision. I want to be able to do this. How can I have a pathway to ensure that that vision is realized? Because I think if I can train in this area, I'll be able to do this and this and that.
And this is exactly what GESSA is addressing. We are addressing the need for Africans to be able to gain skills and training through some of these workforce shortages, but also through our connections to organizations such as TAPE Queensland. That was so amazing this week. They joined us earlier on, and they really believe in the principles that GESSA is addressing when it comes to vocational training and workforce shortages in Australia. And coming from Queensland, they see the need. There's so many opportunities to create that need. And it is something that is written on paper. So it's not something that we're just picking up and saying, oh, when we think that there might be a shortage. No, the Queensland government has said, we have these challenges. Can we have partners who can address them? And GESSA came up and said, yes, we're here. We're going to address these issues because we realize that we have the same, you know, they have one problem, but we've got a solution for it through our own young people who have gained the education. Because I remember just this morning, Sharon, we were talking about, like, there's over 6,000 unemployed graduates just from last year in Botswana alone. Now imagine if we take that and multiply it by 54 countries in Africa. How many people are just are unemployed in 1 year? That's 6,000 multiplied by 54. That's way too many people not to have jobs.
And we're talking about skilled
because these are graduates. They've been through vocational training and so forth, but they're unemployed. How do we create those avenues? And this is why we have been trying to reach out to the HR industry as well to say, help us understand the prerequisites that you work under. How can we create a better network that allows for young people to gain better skills for the jobs that are at hand? Whether you create them in Botswana or globally, you must have relationships and partners that are able to look at some of these frameworks, and we need to be able to address certain, policies that look into how we create partnerships between different countries. One of the things that one of our speakers, Andrew Hunter, addressed this week is just that. He said we need to develop a framework. We need to understand policy in terms of our foreign policies between ourselves and Africa. If we don't address these policies and they're one-sided, there's always going to be this tipping scale, right? Where Australia is benefiting from something that is destroying Africa. Because if Africa becomes destroyed, then in the end, in the next 50, 20 years, we have nothing to offer Australia. We actually will have nothing to give, because everything, our resources and our human resources, which is us being capital, will be completely depleted. We will have nothing to offer them because we will not be unskilled. We won't be able to match with what the global workforce is demanding. So unless we look at policy and foreign policy, which I know that Andrew is so passionate about, and he's even partnered with us so that he's able to address it from an Australian perspective, looking at the leaders that he works with, the senators that he works with, and be able to sit down and say, we want to be able to create and look at or observe how how we're doing when it comes to African policy right now.
Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah. And one of the things that really absolutely excite me with our partnership with Andrew Hunter, who's the CEO of Miles Morgan,
yes,
is the fact that he believes. I mean, we read his opinion piece, and we were like,
it was so exciting.
That's exactly what we're talking about. And there has been, and which we all know, and this is something I've put publicly, that there has been over the last 20 years or more, there has been, a lack of genuine interest from Australia to engage with Africa. It's just how it's been. It's real. It's there. And when you look at some of the strategies and under our foreign affairs and the policies around the engagement, of course, is heavily influenced by the resource sector, because the resource sector, the 170 odd Australian companies that are currently in Africa at the moment are literally benefiting incredibly from that being on the ground and the connections that they have with there. If you look at over this week, I was going through the annual reports, every company by company, reading the annual reports and looking at where they are and how much they're worth and what the shareholders are getting. And it's incredible. And then I look at the board of directors for these companies. They will have a one token African and the board. And you know what I mean? And that one token African in the board is just to say, well, we are actually connected. Now, I would like to see in the future where there is equal interest and equal partnership, where you look at a board of a company that is doing business in Botswana, is doing business in South Africa, and anywhere in Africa, that is actually the board is reflective of the mutual engagement and benefits, where it's reflective of the diversity of the people that are benefiting from there. Because if it's more just Australian who are shareholders and in the board, that tells me that actually, what are we getting out of it? Where are the people, the indigenous Africans who on the ground, why are they not being reflected in this governance structures of these companies?
That's it.
So it requires us having these conversations so that things can change. And I understand that these are conversations that can be uncomfortable for many people, because people say, well, we have a company based in Africa, so we are creating a job there. And I say, okay, well, let's look at the workforce. What's your workforce plan for the next 10 years? All right. So what is your projection about the kind of, if everything goes well and you're still doing business in Africa for the next 10 years, what is your workforce projection going to look like? Where are you going to replace those people who are gone? COVID, we know Africa has suffered incredibly through the COVID-19 experience, where a lot of people have passed on, unfortunately. And these were people who held positions. These were people who were the ones who we relied on in the sector, in the workforce, who were skilled. So the elderly got their vaccinations early, so they didn't die because they were protected. But then you looking at the under 64, under 65, and between 65 and 30. So these were actually the people
Yeah.
who across Africa, who were holding the CEOs
Yeah.
of companies, who were
Yes.
you know, are really the people who were putting the policies, the infrastructure, and have been outside of the world. They are skilled.
Yes.
Now there is a vacuum.
Yeah.
There is a vacuum.
And you're saying it's not actually enough to just talk about young Africans or just Africans in general being employed by international organizations that are local in Africa. It's not enough to say we're creating employment. It's not enough. But what about the development of those people to ensure that they become, you know, they get to the point where they are leaders in those organizations? Because you can employ them and they can stay in the same place for 25, 30 years, and then they just retire with a gold watch, you know,
Absolutely.
or whatever it is. But what about developing them into the leadership that will run these organizations locally, rather than, you know, bringing 40 Australians or 40 Americans to run an organization in Africa that can have, you know, 35 Africans are in leadership? Like, why do we not create those leadership opportunities through the development of young Africans so that they can actually be running global corporations in Africa? So it's not enough to just say employment, but we want to start these people early. We want to start young Africans very early as high school, knowing that, you know, we're working along with the development plans that Africa has for the next 40 years. I mean, we've got an African Union plan for 2063. It's the vision that African leaders have put together, just being able to highlight where we want to be by 2063. But we actually, as citizens of Africa, I think we are responsible for also speeding it up by looking at how we can facilitate and implement some of these goals that our leaders have put across. And we are literally putting ourselves out there saying we want to do this in this sector, which is education for us. But education addresses so many things, because it addresses work, it addresses poverty, it addresses, you know, it addresses sustainability, it addresses absolutely everything regarding a human being and their lifespan.
Absolutely.
It's a whole journey, but we want to start with, yeah, we want to start with young people. And what this program, and I think a lot of people have asked, you know, what is going to happen to people who have registered? Because you're saying you've got a program, but what are the beneficiaries going to be getting from this? And we just want to just highlight the fact that the program will be ongoing, but the immediate need is that people just need information. They need to know how to do things. But from their side, there's going to be a commitment as well. We always talk about how learning is not just going and picking something and you're done with learning. You are going to be having to attend some of the seminars online that we host. You're going to be going through some of the boot camps, some of the, you know, the training that goes through, that some of the speakers actually will be taking us through. So you want to know how University of Canberra, you know, works with students and so forth. You will have to attend the sessions that they host within our platform, so that you get an understanding of what is expected of you, either as a student or as a parent. You shouldn't say you don't know when you send an application through to UC and then you get a rejection, or it just doesn't work out for you the way that you expect, right? Because you're looking to do some course, and that course may not be for you. So it is you need to go through something. You need to go through an area where you are being trained, and there you know, and going through this training allows you to do things yourself. This is what we're trying to get people to a point where they are self-reliant, but they need to be able to commit themselves through you know, to learning on our platform. So we will be hosting a lot of sessions privately, that people who've registered can actually attend with a lot of our speakers, trainers who are getting on board. We've had a lot of emails from people saying, we want to join you as mentors. These are executives living all over the world. Some are African, some are not. And they are actually just saying, we're dedicating our time to be able to take people through. So we've got one, we've got someone who just said, this is Wapa Ellery Chilume. She said, on point, the trainer initiative has to be optimized. The dependency, has to be eliminated. We don't want people to become dependent on anything. People have to become self-reliant, Sharon. This is what Absolutely. We're getting people to just saying, we will take you through those seminars so that we teach you how to navigate this entire system by yourself, to know how to access information, to know how to access the right resources.
Power. Information is power. So by connecting and using our own networks and bringing people out for you and saying, now you have this information, what are you going to do with it?
Yes.
It actually requires you saying, I am actually going to put in that application. I'm going to attend that training. I'm going to do this. I'm going to do this. Gone are the days where we have as citizens and as civil society that we have to sit back and expect governments just to hand out or do or create things for us.
Yes.
We actually pay government with our taxpayers. Yes. So governments are actually responsive to us as individual citizens of any of the countries, because you put them there to work for you. So if you're not connecting with them and saying, hey, actually what you're doing is not meeting my needs, I have a suggestion, we could do this better, then you're actually not holding your own part of the bargain here. You are actually letting people control the things that their own agenda rather than the agenda of the community and the country and what you actually need. So here in Australia, I think advocacy is often a word that people are scared of. It's we're not lobbying anyone. But there are clear things that we need to work with government on in order to facilitate the things that we are saying and we want to achieve.
Without fear.
For example, here in Australia today, the government, the federal government announced, and this has been a pressure from the Pacific communities, both in the Pacific areas and those who live and work here in Australia, saying that there is currently an ability for people to come in here and work in the agribusiness and from the Pacific nations, Papua New Guinea, and they are our neighbors here in Australia. So there is a visa options for them to be able to come and fill in some of the critical work shortages, but mainly in the agriculture sector. However, the government now recognize actually we would need them to fill in the vacancies. They could bring their families. We need to change our policies and expand this program to ensure that these people now can come in and do hospitality. They can come in and work in our aged care, in health, and contributed to fill in the workforce shortages. So from just a specific, a small number of people who are allowed under that program to come in, now it's going to be over 25,000 and more coming. And they will also be able to bring their families, because before it was just them coming and doing the work and going back home. But that has not changed, because that policy didn't change just because, the government thought, hey, no, it's because the people also said, actually, we want better. We could do better. We're not just agricultural workers. We are across sectors. And this is what we can offer to Australia. So then the government looked at that and changed it. Now, I'm just giving that as an example that there are things that we can do individually to knock through the governments across the world to say, how are you engaging with Africa? What are the restrictions and things that are the restrictions that are in place right now that are disabling that engagement? Can we do better? And could we look at this? This has worked here. This has worked there. What about we looking at smoothing those pathways? So it is us citizens not leaving it only to our high commissioners and
Yes.
everything else. It is actually us citizens articulating exactly
Yeah.
what we think benefits us,
Yeah.
our children, and our communities.
Yeah.
So that
And
is what
and
an
talking about
empowerment.
high commissioners, like you just said, one of the things is, we wrote to all the high commissioners that we thought we knew. We were writing letters and letters and, telling them about this program, and obviously when you begin something, not everyone sees your vision, not everyone understands what you're talking about. But I really want to commend the High Commission in London, the Botswana High Commission in London, okay? There's I got so much assistance from the High Commissioner assigned somebody. Actually, she was, or she was just sold from the beginning because she believes in the principle of education and workforce. And her name is Gloria Khalibuzwe. She works at the London office. She has been so influential, so instrumental in going around England and the UK and saying, here's a program that we believe is going to benefit not only you as universities, but is also going to benefit our young people, because there's so many aspects of this that are connected. It focuses not just on education, it focuses on career development, it focuses on creating mentorship programs, it focuses on skills and development training, it focuses on creating a sustainable environment around young people so that they're able to become future leaders, not just for their host countries, but also for the countries that they come back to. They come back home, they are already at a leadership level. So they're not going to be waiting a year, 2 years, 3 years to get employed. We will be able to integrate them into areas that our host countries actually create for them. That is what this does. It's not just about going to school and coming back, and then your parents have to think, okay, when are you going to get a job? That job will already be there, because host countries then start to look at areas that they can plug you into while you are still growing. And that is, I believe, what leadership really is all about. So I'm so excited about the fact that I see the changes, and I see the change in mindset when it comes to the people around me since we started on Monday, because I think a lot of people just wanted to see, let's see how this pans out first. Let's see what's going to happen before we jump into something. But we went ahead anyway. And the partners that came on board are ones that helped us actually start developing some level of framework around the program, so that it works. It works for, it works now, like in the short term, and it also works in the long term.
And I like to really take that and echo the gratitude for every single one who was sold from the beginning and saying, actually, this sounds like something we, and some who couldn't, for example, Study Queensland, they're very excited to be part of and part of this, but couldn't be due to the time frame, just couldn't be able to participate.
Yes.
And there are many others who couldn't participate.
And Study Canberra came through.
Absolutely. And Study New South Wales,
yes,
they said, let's look at what we can do in the next 12 months. We can't do much now, but, our plans are not aligning well. Let's look at how we can do this. So, and actually, this is what this is about. It's starting the conversations and selling the vision. But every single one of the people who came on board, all our speakers who signed up and created their presentation, it is not easy. But I know also, with the virtual summits, people are not so sure yet, because it's something kind of new. And of course, it's something new, but also people are not sure how Africa technology virtual, is that going to work? Hey, here we are.
We would rather take that money, Sharon, and use it on our program than travel around the world and create these big summits where we're asking people to fly in. That $2,000 that you're using to travel is the money that we need to make sure that this program works for students. So it works for us to do something like this because, one, it saves on the carbon footprint. It saves us a lot of money. This is what sustainability is really all about, because we're talking about financial sustainability, and we're talking about environmental sustainability at the same time. So we want to be examples of the fact that we don't see why we need to create a huge event and call 100 people, and spend a whole lot of money, when we can use that money for the program so that young people can actually go to school and go to school now. And we've got some comments here. We've got a comment from Lepang Ferguson Mugobi. That is my sister, but I am going to read it anyway. She says, well done, team. Keep pushing and changing our children's lives. We've got from Catherine. She says, I love this. And from Brian Nube, he says, really interesting and inspiring, so clear and on point. From Paco Lekoko, who was one of our speakers, because we have the same vision. We're so aligned in what we're doing. And as we work on the program, we have said from the onset, we're going to work together. We're going to find a way to do this together. Actually, Maha Lebotswe introduced us. So that was the most exciting part of it. She says, huge round of applause for this initiative. Looking forward to so much more coming out of the GESSA kitchen. We are excited too. We realize that, one of the things actually that has come out of this whole engagement and the past 3 months of work, I realized something, and I've always known this, and a lot of global political commentators, social commentators, cultural, financial commentators, or economic commentators have been saying this. Australia is emerging as a leader. They are understanding the need to change the world. And the fact that I have gotten so much interest from Australia more than every other country. We have, yes, gotten a lot of interest from Canada. It was just upcoming, and from the UK. It's just that they came in really at the end of us organizing this event, and they're interested in the long term. But Australia just said, okay, just count us in. What do we do now, right? Because they know, and they're willing to share so much information for, stuff like Thrive 2030, which is Australia's plan for allowing the Australian economy to thrive by 2030 through some of the initiatives, some of the programs that are happening, but sharing that information on how much international students actually spend in Australia and how much they make Australia. It's almost about $70 billion that international students make for Australia. And the Australian government is saying, because of this, that means we need to address some of the areas of interest with Africa, because we realize that if Africans are spending so much, if international students, whether they're from Africa or Asia or whatever it is, are spending so much of their money, so much capital on our soil, what are we really doing in terms of addressing the partnerships that make this not only better for Australia, but better for Africa as well? We create an equal partnership through some of these initiatives, whether it's in mining, or it's in healthcare, or it's in sports. Like we're talking about, industry leaders need to start examining the relationship and the equality and the equity, because it has to be equitable for Africa to be able to become sustainable in the long term. And how do we as GESSA address those equity measures as well? You talked about your mom, from Good Hope. And in some of the areas that we want to be able to go to and be able to look at top achievers. It's not just about saying, top achievers, come to us, tell us who you are, but we want to be able to really do a study of some of these environments and say, and be able to go back to the government and say, maybe what you've been thinking is top achievement is really not. Maybe you're not looking at the fact that there's these kids who are like, they may not be good at maths or science, but these are some of the most amazing artists that Botswana is going to churn out.
Look at the startups, the value of startups. Here in Queensland,
exactly.
There is a startup company that is now been sold. I think it's worth billions now. They started in the kitchen. A lot of the startup companies are starting on their garages, Facebook, where it started. So they didn't actually have all the capital to be able to do all the things that they needed, but they started to do something with the ideas and saying, hey, I've got an idea. And this it looks like this, and in that kitchen they did something up, they sold out to the world. Somebody thought, oh, this is a great idea, and put money onto it. So
traditional innovation.
Traditional
traditional innovation from rural places, rural development. Like there are things that we see as rural, but those are traditional. That is traditional innovation. That 10 years down the line, you see a European company working on something that is actually in a small village in Botswana, and you wonder if this has always been here. Why are we not doing it? Why are we not in control of our own innovation? So this is what I
was having a conversation. Let me share this conversation because it was funny. I was having this conversation with someone the other day. We are facing a housing crisis here in Queensland, in fact, in the whole of Australia. There are just not enough for the housing for the population that needs the housing. So housing is kind of becoming far and far off reach for first home buyers, for people who, even just renting a place. People are not able to do it. Because it is far off reach. There's not enough public housing, and people are looking for solutions. People are looking for solutions. And I said to this person, I said, thinking about it back home, and this is not to say there are not people who are homeless, all right, at home. And I said the African village, the African way of us dealing with housing, where it's multi-generational. So, you will always, even if you're renting in the city, you will always have a home. That is the home of your parents, your grandparents, that hasn't exchanged hands. So that means that all the people underneath, your great-grandkids will always be able to come have a place they can call home. So when it comes to home ownership, my grandfather's home is my home. I actually claim that. My mother's home is my home. So I will never look at myself as homeless in Botswana because I have all of this, all of these structures that are able to do it. But also being able to have multiple dwellings in one property. In a property, rather than putting in a bigger house, how about you having little, micro homes in the house for people, so that you are actually creating your own little village. You are sharing resources. You are paying, rather than paying rates by yourself, you're sharing the rates across these multiple dwellings. So it actually brings the costs of owning a home quite down, but then you have 5 families that can benefit from the co-location and co-living structures like we do. So I said, I was saying to this person, I said, maybe we need to look at the models, of back in Africa about home ownership. Not only, I know Singapore does other things, but there are multiple ways that we can solve the world's problems by looking outside of our borders. And thinking about how others are doing it. And that is the interconnectedness of our global community that we are shifting towards, so that we are learning from each other, we are benefiting from each other, and also we are recognizing the values of people's different experiences.
Yeah. And another thing is that because you and I are also still really learning, because for us, it's also a learning curve, right? We have to learn from the experts. Like I'm an expert at putting together a program. I can put a program together. I can put together good proposals. I can put together a good event and good seminars and all of that from where I come from. So I can only focus really on my strengths. And I realize that you are bringing in your strengths from working with migrant communities, from working with refugees, from working with Africans in Australia, from working with policy makers in the healthcare sector in Australia, from working with different organizations that are community driven. So from your side, you're bringing in your strength. But I think that one of the things that we have really experienced, and I've experienced a lot more in the past maybe 3 weeks to a month, is when I was talking to some of the and you have been talking to some of the business departments of universities. And one of the people that has really been so, so instrumental in also advising us is Dr. Peter Woods from from Griffith Business School, who was also one of our speakers this week, because he's allowed us to understand how we can work with business departments of schools to access the research that is just available. The research is there. We don't have to go and say, how do we start researching this on by ourselves? He's like, no, but we are business professors. This is what we do. We examine things, we research. We've got all of this. Now, starting to go around and talk to different business departments of different universities in different countries, we've been able to unravel this, and we've been able to unpack some of the things that we had been missing before. And in realizing that business departments have so much to offer us, and these are departments within universities that really facilitate a lot of the growth strategies of nations. And it allows us to get, to be able to access their research as partners. It also allows us to be able to send young people into their departments to even emphasize this research even more, and to develop these departments even more. That is a win-win situation, because university business departments continue to grow, but at the same time they allow us to understand how to help young Africans and how to also help them as departments. That has been, I think, one of the highlights of this program so far.
Absolutely. And even just taking an example of TAFE Queensland and talking about the trades, the innovation, the people in the fashion industry. Imagine how many people at home who are in the fashion industry, and looking at how do you bring it as it's a program. I mean, fashion design is a program that the TAFE works in, and or in the community sector, what we call the caring sector here, but community support workers, aged care workers, disability workers. How do we tap into the sharing of information and learning and building this sector? I mean, we will. The world is growing. We will need more doctors. We will need more trades. When we build our houses, we need more bricklayers. I tell you, plumbers are in one of the highly sought out skill that is required here in Australia. People who do plumbing, people who bricklayers, chefs. Oh my God, I have so many friends in the hospitality industry who are absolutely crying.
Amazing chefs in Botswana. Amazing young chefs.
Amazing chefs in Botswana, and saying, how do I use and learn from other chefs in Australia? I remember one time a young barista in Botswana making the most incredible coffee in Botswana, who was wanting to expand his trade, and I happen to know somebody here who owns a coffee company, who goes around, in fact, around the world judging coffees and has skills. I immediately linked them up, and I said, hey, this is the person I know who knows everything about coffee and judges coffee. You wanna build your business as a barista and as a business owner as well to serve Botswana coffee. I want to be able to go and have a good coffee.
Imagine that.
Will tell you
something that people will actually be gravitating towards, because it's something that is new to them. So we're selling our country just through one small thing, just you being able to connect people in terms of just coffee. People will gravitate towards that cafe just to taste what kind of coffee is actually coming out of Botswana. But as we are wrapping up,
people would when they go to Botswana, there will be one of the things, if they're Australian, they will be asking, where can I get a good coffee? That's it.
As we're wrapping up, Sharon, because I know that we've had such an exhausting week. We have hardly slept, but we also now want to take a break and be able to give everybody something else. I'm just going to read 2 more comments, and then I'm going to finalize on what people can expect from GESSA for the next few months. Firstly, we've got a comment from Lepang Ferguson Baseki. She says, great initiative, I love it. We've got a comment from Taina Dikabi. She says, well done, team. Keep pushing and changing children's lives. God bless you all. We're proud of you, and we're proud of you, Sharon Orapeleng. So that's someone who's saying, yay, Sharon, yay. Just to talk about the last part of this, because I think that this is not just about students. We've talked about the fact that it's also for, it's for students, yes. Okay, one thing that I'm definitely going to talk about at the end, because I know everybody wants to know about scholarships, right? But firstly, from the corporate side, if you're in the corporate sector, understand that education is one of the highest grossing industries in the world. It makes billions for countries. And I said, I've just highlighted, it makes at least 70 billion for Australia every year. So you can imagine how much it makes for the US and for Canada, for Germany, for every country, country in the world. And it should be making the same for Africa as well, because we'll also be working with African universities. But B2B is so important to us. And this is one of the things that we will be doing, because we have created this network and these links between different universities and organizations. We definitely want us to be able to have B2B links, whether we do it virtually or whether we just have 20 people meeting in one location to say, this is how much we're investing, this is how much we're going to do, this is what we're going to do for African students, this is what we're going to do between Australia and Africa. It's not just about looking for opportunities for Africans and saying, oh, we're poor, help us. No, that's not what it's about. We are saying we can address these opportunities because we know that there's organizations that are deriving a lot of value in terms of the economy or financially from Africa into their countries. But now we want to create these partnerships because we realize that there's value for both African workers and international organizations working in the continent. So we want to be able to create these even with human resource organizations and partners and individuals that are passionate about HR. I already saw that for instance, CD Kuno, he actually put a comment yesterday. He's a very influential person in that industry, that people that we want to talk to and say, listen, just listen to us and help us look at how we can do this from a global perspective for Africans. But now that we're closing, scholarships, everybody listened to Dr. Bojosi Hamunlepiri this week, and they're asking about scholarships. First of all, get her book. We'll have it on on our website. We'll have some of the resources that you can look at when you're looking for scholarships. But we realize that there's so many organizations that have these posts online all the time, looking for a scholarship, go to this place, go to that place. They're not giving us the picture. They're giving us where we can go, but you go there and you realize that it is so difficult for you to even navigate that. But yet they've said, it's like they're just driving traffic to their site. So if you're looking for a scholarship, look at us. We'll link you with this. But they're not. It's just an infomercial that is getting you to get onto their website so that they can have traffic and have data to say that they're getting people scholarships. That is not the case. And I think we need to wake up to that. We need to stop sharing things that don't make sense to us anymore. We're just making some international organization get traffic from something that they're not even doing. We can all access that information. It's not hard for us to find. But how do we then start working on looking for scholarships and making that these kind of programs available for young Africans? One, we've been connecting with a lot of organizations that actually have been, that are actually active in engaging with funds for Africans who want to study overseas. So these are the organizations that actually have the funds and actually have the access to the funds. We want to bring them on board so that you can hear it from the horse's mouth. But not only that, directly from them. Directly. And that's it. So you know how to get those funds. You know what the prerequisites are. Because some of the prerequisites that you think you have right now, like being a top achiever or getting all A's, that's not it. There's organizations, there's universities that are looking for students that are just better at innovation, that are just better, that have a high standard when it comes to sports and arts and so forth. That's what they're looking for. So if you don't know the prerequisites for some of these scholarships, you're really going to be always going to the wrong place, and you're going to be looking up these things. It says, oh, we've got, looking for a scholarship, go to this place. That's not really how we act. Anyone can access that information. I mean, even 15-year-olds can do that. But what we want to do is create a platform that engages people on the realities of scholarships and the realities of how to get them. Because if you think that you can just get a scholarship because you've done well or you're good at something, then you're absolutely wrong. We want to be able to address it on paper. We want to be able to connect the right funding organizations with the right students. That means students have to have to pull up their socks. Parents have to get their children to pull up their socks so that they are accessible to some of these organizations, because I think that it's not just about looking, we think we're looking for scholarships, and we realize that some of these organizations are looking for leaders. They're looking for young leaders. So we need to prepare our children at the same time for these opportunities. So now we're just kind of bridging these gaps, like you're saying. We're working from both sides of the spectrum to be able to connect them. So any last words, Sharon?
Absolutely. I mean, what I wanted to say as well in terms of the scholarships, one of those critical things that we're going to be doing is working with the corporate sector, actually to say to you invest in building your own workforce. What do you want your workforce to be in? Do your workforce analysis. Do your workforce analysis, workforce audit and analysis. Where do you want to be in the next 5 years? If you know where you want to be in the next 5 to 10 years, then who do you need to train now to be able to get in? What skills are you missing? Do a skills audit, but also invest. 5 scholarships, like we'll be talking to some of the mining companies and saying, being able to kind of put together 10 scholarships that you pay 100 fully funded scholarship in a country that you have a footprint in, and to be able to connect with the right individuals investing in the workforce that you need of the future. That is what we want, so that we're not necessarily just going to the universities and saying, okay, we will link you, but we're actually wanting the corporate sector to stand
to invest
and do the investment in our young people. It is about
absolutely. Absolutely. Well, just wrapping up, okay, I think we can just thank our partners and our sponsors, everyone who has literally gone out of their way to make sure that this summit happens in one way or the other. I'd really love, to thank our local sponsors, Bojosi Law, Yarona FM, the Botswana Gazette, for being so amazing, for really pulling through for us and just making sure that the public knows and understands about this. The Botswana Gazette, Shika Olsen called me the other day and said, some of his clients are asking about GESSA now. They're like, okay, so tell us more about this program, because they've been able to see a day or two of it from the beginning. So it tells us that the investment into GESSA is huge. It's huge, and we don't take it for granted. We just want to thank, some of the partners, some of the organizations that came through into the program, Study Canberra, University of Canberra, Griffith Business School. We'd like to thank Miles Morgan Australia, and anyone else, who else, Sharon? We want to thank Georgia Tech, Venture Lab, Bojosi.
Many. Many people.
We'd like to thank Paco and Christian for coming through. And some of these events that, like Christian is actually hosting the 10th annual BW Jobs for Graduates coming up soon, and we're going to talk about that more. We'll be engaging with that on our platform as well, with the GESSA platform, because we really encourage young people to go for these opportunities. They've been trying to really get young people to find out more about how to get jobs within the region. He's created a lot of partners around the organization. I think we will just be looking at how we're working with our partners and our current partners, and partners who come in just before the program started and said, Lepang and Sharon, we're interested in this, but let's talk after the event. Let's let's sit around the table, bring in all the other partners. Let's start having stakeholder meetings and stuff like that to allow everybody around the table to say, this is how much we can contribute to GESSA. So GESSA is not just you and I, it's so many people. It's it's my daughter and and my
Yeah,
nephew who gave them
absolutely.
all their time to say
Yeah.
we'll be working full time just to make sure that this event goes well. Is
Amen,
Brian
Brian.
Leonard.
Thank
Brian has
God.
done so well. Like, he's been the most amazing tech support. I mean, I'll call Brian every hour of the day saying, "Help me! Like, what's going on?" But he's always like ahead of me. He's like, "No, it's done already. Don't worry about it." So thank you to
Thank
everybody. Like, your son and your husband have been so patient with you the past two
you.
weeks.
Thank you.
My family has had to be patient with me as well, and I'm just
And
really thankful to you.
everyone who's been tuning in and listening and
Yes,
receiving the information,
yes.
really, we can't do this without you,
We can't.
listening to it. But
Yeah.
most importantly, we want you to be part of it. So
Yes.
your
Yeah.
ideas are critical into how
Yeah.
we design the program.
Yeah.
So we ensure that it actually
Yeah.
meets the needs, your needs, the
Absolutely.
African young person's needs, their family
Yeah.
needs, but also the
Yeah.
corporate sector. So
That's
I see
it.
this as a platform for us to co-design things, to do
Yeah.
things together
Yeah.
for all
Yeah.
our benefits.
Yeah, I
So
mean,
yes,
even
thank you,
some things
guys.
that people may not have realized. For instance, like, we have been doing these short video introductions online, and the music that was in those videos was actually made for us by someone in Australia. It was made for us by Ruben Campbell. He actually worked on that song for us just to have it on our intro. So it's a song that is designed for GESSA. So GESSA has its own music. You can just imagine the contribution from somebody who's an amazing international artist to take time out and say, I'm providing you with this song, just so that it's everything to us, because somebody may have missed that out, but somebody did something huge for us. So it's so many parts, and that just came together to bless us and just make this event an amazing success. So to our friends who've been sharing, people, our friends have been sharing and sharing and sharing every hour of the day. Thank you to all of our friends. You guys have just been so special, from the onset. So we just want to say thank you to family, friends, and the support structure around us, and partners, and so forth.
Thank you,
Yeah.
everyone. Thank you,
Yeah.
Galebo, Lepang. This
Thank
is
you,
just
Sharon.
beginning. Thank you so much. I
Yes.
cannot wait. So thanks,
Yeah.
everyone. Have
Thank
a
you,
great
everyone, for
weekend.
joining. Yes. And have
Your
an
next
amazing
one.
weekend. We will
Yeah.
see you soon. All
Thank
right,
you.
then.
Bye.
Bye.